Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and today I want to talk to you about female hormone imbalances. Now I know it's backwards. I know 100%, so I'm going to get a lot of you guys telling me it's backwards and you can't read the board. But when I was trying to set this up, there is a setting in Facebook when you click on to switch the image. Every time I did that, it closed the Facebook Live. So your choice was to have it done the right way but not do the Facebook Live because it wouldn't open, or was for me to do it the wrong way and have a Facebook Live. And that's more of a lesson for me versus you, because when we're stressed out and when we try to have goals and we try to have deadlines and we try to do to-do lists and things get in your way, like a Facebook Live doing a thing backwards, or me not being able to do it, all of a sudden I feel my stress start coming out, I feel my adrenaline start to rush, and I'm aware of my body, my visceral reaction to the stressor, and I close that down right away. And that's really important, because whether we're talking about female hormone imbalances that is read backwards, or we're talking about anxiety or fatigue or brain fog, ultimately, it's going to be the stressors during your day that are going to impact your body and how you react to them, and then whether or not you're going to make energy to handle the day-to-day stressors. So that means not getting in panic, not getting in overwhelm, not feeling your stomach muscles contract and feel butterflies, being able to have good breath and not being hyperventilating, being able to focus and concentrate and manage your day like you used to. I mean, how many of us are not doing that anymore? And that's a really good lesson, especially as it relates to female hormone imbalances. That's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. So we're going to be talking about 8 items where I want you to ask yourself, when I mention these 8 items and you're dealing with a female hormone imbalance, and whether that be menopausal symptoms and hot flashes and sweating through the night, or whether it be just having cold and then hot flashes, or always being painful cycles. Painful cycles could be a big one, or having irregular cycles, or having very symptomatic cycles at different parts of the month, having fibroids and having endometriosis and having polycystic ovarian syndrome, and all of these things. That's what we're talking about today, which I think is going to be very, very important. So I want you to ask yourself these questions when we're talking about these female hormone imbalances, where all so far we've talked about is the symptoms. But I want you to think about, more importantly, are these things going on in your attempt to try to get this better? So the first thing is, we're going to think about stress and the way that it impacts your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and then the hormones and the glands are being stimulated. So by that I mean I know it's backwards. I talked about that in the very beginning. Unfortunately, I couldn't change the way that it was positioned, and the show had to go on. So I was talking about how that was a bit stressful for me. So anyways, we're talking about the hypothalamus, stress, and the axis. So I want you to ask yourself, in your attempt to balance your hormones, in your attempt to feel energetic and focused, and not have bloating, pain, and tenderness, and not be fatigued and brain foggy and moody and not motivated to do things in life, and depressed and overwhelmed, and all of these things. If all of those things are things that you're feeling, then let me know with a thumbs up, because then it will let me know that I understand all of the things that I am saying. So again, please, if you're just joining this, it's backwards because I couldn't switch it the other way around. And please just focus on the content and not so much that it's backwards. So I want you to think about electric magnetic fields. It's a little bit weird, I know, but how often do we keep our cell phones in our on our person, on our body for the hours that we do? I mean, they're little receivers that have frequencies that bounce back and forth off your Wi-Fi, and people, if they wanted to, they could use your hotspot. You yourself is a hotspot. And if you don't think that's impacting your body on a biochemical level, on a hormonal level, then ask yourself this question as to if any of these 8 characteristics that you're thinking about are being addressed, so that you know that you're doing everything that you can to help with your female hormone imbalance, and it's not so much the hormones that you're taking or the supplements that you're taking or the blood tests that you're doing or the information that you're doing. It's these things that aren't being done at the end of the day, and many more things, but these are just some of the things. So electromagnetic frequencies, we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about chemical disruptors. Chemical disruptors. So what do we mean by that? Well, chemicals in the environment, there's so many of them, and not to think like the sky is falling, let's just think about the fact that there's chemical disruptors in the environment, and pesticides and sprays and chemicals, and these are basically xenobiotics. And these xenobiotics are estrogen disruptors, and they're not just estrogen disruptors. I want you to understand that first and foremost is chemicals will be mitochondrial disruptors, cell membrane disruptors, enzyme disruptors, which is kind of scary, but let's not think about that right now. What they are they're estrogen disruptors. For females that have hormone imbalances and are looking for a solution, they have to understand that these chemical disruptors, they're very, very real. And we have to lower our stress footprint and reduce the exposure, number 1, identify it, number 2, and come up with a solution to get it out of our body if it's in us, number 3. But we have to identify and be aware that there's chemical disruptors that are impacting our female hormone imbalances that you are not addressing. The other thing is detoxification of the liver and the gallbladder. So a lot of you focus on this. You really, really do, but you don't understand the how, the why, the what, and that's really, really important. And so what I mean by that is, number 1, you understand, okay, I'm going to do a cleanse, I'm going to help the liver, I'm going to use phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 of liver detoxification protocols. I'm going to do all that stuff, but you're not really addressing the how it continues to be impacted. And so, for example, when you eat foods, and that's the next one, digestion and your microbiome, when you eat foods and you don't digest them the way you should because of just wear and tear, basically, of foods that have been heated and that have oils and are bacteria laden and chemicals and pests and just aren't really good quality foods, is you're not going to digest them over time. You just don't have the proper secretions to break all that down. So ultimately, you're going to bring extra toxins to the liver. And I really want you to be aware of that. When you bring extra toxins to the liver from not digesting your foods properly, then that's going to impact your hormones and your hormone imbalances, and taking your bioidenticals, and whether they're synthetic or not. I mean, synthetic is awful. It really is. It's made from equine urine. I mean, it's not really good stuff. But at the end of the day, what's happening is you have these disruptors and these, even if they're bioidentical, that aren't being used properly and aren't communicating their messages, and your hormones are not effective because of biotransformation in your liver and in your gastrointestinal system. So again, like I said, think about if you're dealing with a female hormone imbalance and you're frustrated, you're going to the doctor and you're not sure they're doing a good job, you can't really tell, you're on a bunch of hormones, or you can tell and you still feel crappy, and you still feel like you're not able to get through your day. You have your hot flashes, you don't have any libido, you feel weak and tired and worn out. and you don't have motivation, and you have pain, and you're exhausted and tired and burnt out. I mean, if those are the things that are happening, then you've got to understand these things that you have to ask the questions to. The other thing I want you to understand is definitely there is a hormone imbalance. When you have estrogen disruptors and chemical disruptors and endocrine disruptors and receptor disruptors, which can do almost anything that it wants to do in the body, that can happen, it's going to cause hormone imbalances. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then mineral deficiencies. Again, back to digestion. If you're not digesting your foods and the quality of the food sources is terrible and the soils aren't great and there's sprays and there's chemicals and there's a bunch of different things in there and you're not digesting your foods because you don't have the right secretions at this stage in the game to continue to break down your foods, you're not going to extract the little bit of minerals that are in there in the first place. And then you're going to have these vital biochemical processes that require, biology 101, these micronutrients and vitamins and minerals and cofactors for your foods to have energy production in the body. Of course, the hormones are going to be imbalanced. There's so many things upstream, ahead of that you're trying to figure out that aren't working properly. And we're at the macro system level of trying to get supplements to help with your hormone imbalances. And then lastly, infections. So the infections are really secondary to micronutrient deficiencies. And the research shows, as early as 1975, is that you can have decreased absorption of foods. You will have that before you have infections. That you will have deficiencies lead to infections, and we'll talk about how it leads to infections. Your immune system is weaker, and you will get more exposures. But the interesting thing is the gene deck, our own gene card. When we're not methylating properly, and we have deacetylation, or a fancy way of saying we're not having biochemistry happen the way we want to, then you can express an infection in your body. And whenever I talk to patients, and it's kind of that touchy subject, like infections, because we don't think, as the doctor, we don't think of that patient as being having bad hygiene and being promiscuous. That doesn't come across our minds, or at least not my mind. It comes across that you live in an environment where there's a lot of exposures to chemicals and micronutrient deficiencies and viruses from the external and from the internal. And it is what it is, but you got to address that, and you got to understand that. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. So a little bit more about stress. Obviously, stress is impacting the body. That's what we thrive under, and that's what we crash under. And our body has to maintain that fine line of homeostasis, where if you don't maintain that fine line, then you can have runaway androgens as a female. So what does that mean? It means that you can have your adrenals be stimulated from your hypothalamus and your pituitary. That causes upregulations, downregulations, and dysregulations, to the point where androgens go in excess. So we see polycystic ovarian syndromes, acne, aggression, irritableness, oily skin, hair growth where you don't want it, hair loss, male pattern hair loss, polycystic ovaries. All of that can happen because of runaway androgens from the stressors in our environment. Electric magnetic frequencies, I'm not going to get too much in that, but your cell phone, if you don't have protective devices on there, if you're not minimizing it, if it's sleeping by your head 2 feet and it's still in airplane mode, even if it's not and it's in non-airplane mode, and yeah, it may be weird for me to talk about this, but if you're suffering and you're fatigued and you're exhausted and you're burnt out and you're not getting the results that you're looking for because all of the supplements that you have in your little pharmacy isn't fixing it, you need to get real with what you have to actually focus in on. I mean, I hope it's a paradigm shift. I look at it, last time I did a video, it didn't save to Facebook Live, and it was kind of frustrating. Again, that could have caused me to, you know, get overwhelmed and create that HPA axis, and downstream from that are androgen runaways. If maybe good thing for a guy, but doesn't work that way for guys. It actually aromatizes and turns into estrogen. So it's sort of God's cruel trick on inflammation in your body. It's going to make you more of the opposite gender. But anyways, you got to think of this as a war. You got to think of it as your body is really under war, and that your day-to-day battle is all the things you do proactively to be healthy. Drinking good quality water, getting good quality foods, minerals, and nutrients that were meant to be supplied by the earth. I mean, all of these common things, breathing good quality air, having downtime with family. These are the things that are super important for all of this to work. But the EMFs are a real big problem, and I think is airplane mode not okay nearby at night? I still don't think you should have it near you. I still think that the skeptic in me feels that it's kind of like they're still, if it's in airplane mode, you're still getting frequencies that are 2 feet from your head that are being, you know, there's something there. Let's just say that's the weirdo in me a little bit. But certainly not having it 2 feet from your head. I understand if you want it for your alarm, have it at the end of the bed or have it away from you. But even that shouldn't really be. The good functioning circadian rhythm doesn't need an alarm. Its HPA axis is wound to the day. And I could say pretty much that happens a lot with me, is that my brain is now, except when you have daylight savings, is pretty much regulated to get up at the same time. And the more you can regulate the same time of day that you get up, the same time of day you have your meals, the same time of day you go to bed, the better, and that's in a healthy way, you're gonna have a better functioning circadian rhythm and HPA axis. Also, detoxification of the liver. We spent good time on that one. That has to do with digesting your foods, making sure you're secreting enough foods. That has a lot to do with methylation. That has a lot to do with glucose stabilization, absorption of micronutrients. Your healthy sulfur production in your gastrointestinal tract has a lot to do with that kind of stuff. And then your hormone balance, it really comes down to all this stuff. It's like the Karate Kid, you know, wax on, wax off. When are we going to talk about hormone balance? And it's like let's see you do your wax on and wax off. Let me see your EMFs. Let me see your HPA axis. You're doing, oh, you already know how to fight. Your hormones are already balanced. Kind of way. Mineral deficiencies, pH testing. Test your pH a couple times a day. That's a no-brainer. I mean, my goal is not to withhold information from you in these sessions. These are to tell you what you should be doing, because this is where it gets real. Where the difference is knowing where to sort of fish in the stocked pond, so to speak, meaning what's going on with your genetics, what's going on with your HPA axis, what's going on with your microbiome, what's going on with your neurotransmitters, what's going on with your absorption. And if we know that and apply that, then it could be that much easier. And that's the difference. And I work with people all the time to teach them about that. And so anyways, and then lastly is infections. And infections is really kind of the boogeyman, if you will. It's the one that if you don't take care of your minerals and you don't get your pH levels higher, and your infections are really starting to overwhelm your body, it's taking it down. It's a war, right? It's taking it down. So it is stealing away your energy production for its own production. So now you don't have as much clarity in your mind and focus. You don't have energy and motivation. You're exhausted. You're not recovering. When you want to go out and you do something as little as taking a shower and you're exhausted, and you don't want to, you know, get yourself together, and you just, all those things are things that you have to end. So that's all I had for you tonight. I think that's a lot of information. Just think about the summary of this is with female hormone imbalances, these 8 things have I thought about addressing when I'm getting my health back. My stress response with my HPA axis or my HPA anything axis, electric magnetic frequencies, chemical disruptors, and xenobiotics, detoxification, liver, gallbladder, digestion, your microbiome, hormone balance, mineral deficiencies, and infections. Those are the ones I want you to think about. But remember, in order to stock the deck in your favor and know exactly which ones you need to focus in on, how to focus in on them, what to do, that's where you and I can talk about what's specifically needed for you. So, you know, we can jump on a call. I usually put a link in here and so that we can get clear on where you are with your health, where you want to be. Most importantly, where is it that you want to be? And if I feel I can help you get there, I bridge that gap for you, then I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. And if I don't feel I can help you, I'll tell you that too. So that's it. That's all I got. To answer your question, I'm glad that was helpful, Angela. How do you know if the liver is an issue for us? I mean, Carrie, you have to watch that all over again because I think it's always kind of an issue. But ultimately, because it's a verb, it's not something that you take care of one time. And you want to lower the burden on more than you're gaining every day till eventually where you get that negative deficit, you know, out of arrears. But, you know, looking at your pH is a really good way of doing that. All your Dutch tests and looking at your phase 1 and phase 2 is a good way. Looking at blood work and liver enzymes and conversions of T4 to T3 is another good way. Glutathione status and looking at how your glutathione recycles and works is another good way. Lots of good ways in there. So I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Is airplane mode not safe? Oh yeah, how do we test our pH? I saw that, Jill. pH paper. I usually have my little list of props around here, and I don't have them today, but pH paper. And I'm really excited because lots of changes coming. I'm going to be having a better recording suite for you guys so I can have better quality videos and most importantly give you excellent quality information. So once again, my name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I look forward to ending your female hormone imbalance that was backwards the whole time nightmare. And have a nice evening.